Good afternoon, Mr. President and Dean Don LeDuc. Fellow colleagues of mine on the Board of Directors, Justice Markman, distinguished deans, faculty, staff, mothers, fathers, you notice I put those first, brothers, sisters, aunts and uncles, kids, significant others, partners, friends, loan collectors, Aunt Sally Mae, and Uncle Freddie Mac. And last but not least, our guests, the special reason why we are all here today, our special guests of honor, you graduates. The encouraging thing when I look out at the graduating class, I graduated in the first class in January of 1976. It happened to be called the Cooley class. I started in 1973. I applied to Cooley because at that time, University of Michigan, Notre Dame, and North Carolina were all receiving 5,000 applicants. I was waitlisted at Notre Dame, rejected at North Carolina, and rejected at University of Michigan. I didn't let that deter me because I was convinced I was going to go to law school. But when I look at this class, and I look at the class that I graduated from, one of the biggest things that I noticed strikingly is the diversity we have in law today. 3 days ago, as Don just mentioned, was sworn in by the Chief Justice of the Michigan Supreme Court, Justice Robert Young. The Chief Justice prefaced his remarks prior to swearing me in by stating that I would be the last State Bar President that he would be swearing in. He didn't elaborate. The official news hasn't hit the streets, but I suspect that you will be reading about it very shortly. And quite possibly, you will not be surprised as the election comes before the court. Now, Ms. Swims has indicated a couple of things. I thought she had either read my speech or you would accuse me of having read hers. So just to say that I know what you stated and what you represented in your speech was from the heart. It's from the heart that I give you my remarks and indicate clearly she had not read my speech and I hadn't read hers. But next time, Dean LeDuc, I suggest maybe the speaker and the two speakers should get together. She talked about a journey. And I'm going to talk to you about a journey because it signifies to me that every journey started. Every journey started eventually comes to an end. We are constantly reminded that nothing lasts forever. The only thing constant in life is change. It seems like my journey is always just beginning or just coming to an end as an old chapter is laid to rest. After being sworn in, I start this year as president of the State Bar of Michigan. It's a journey that I warmly embrace because I'm a lawyer's lawyer. I've been trying cases for 41 years. Incidentally, I talked to Don and indicated I tried 3 jury trials between April and June this year. I got tremendous results. We got $350,000 on one case for a catastrophically injured client. We got $487 in the other case and $1.6 million in the last case. The one trial went 4 weeks, the other trial went 2 weeks, and the other trial went a week. What I want to tell you is I haven't got paid a dime on any of them. So we'll just have to wait and see. But having said that, I grew up in Farmington, Michigan. I knew I always wanted to be a lawyer. That started my journey. I recall sitting where you are sitting here today, graduating, although I must say that my parents came up from Florida to come to the graduation, did not attend it, and I think it had something to do with our founder, President Tom Brennan, mentioning, Polly, I think it'll be a cold day in Lansing before he graduates. Well, so it came to be. 25 below on January 24th, suggested to my parents, son, it's a wonderful thing that you're graduating, but we're not going outside. There wasn't a wind chill factor. It was 24 below. So I want to tell you that the joy in graduating from law school is not just getting it over with, but rather in reaching the goal to become an attorney. Becoming an attorney was a goal that I set early in my childhood, maybe not unlike many of you. So congratulations. You've succeeded in so many ways to reach your goals. But remember that the sacrifices that all of you have made. I flew to Tampa Bay to go to the law school for a board meeting, one of the first meetings. My colleague on the board, James Butler, and I said, James, I'd like to go to a favorite restaurant and sit on the beach before we go to the meeting. So we went out, and we were dressed up in suits, and a waiter came up. And he said, could I help you, gentlemen? We said, well, we'd like to order. And so he brought back a couple of menus and said, you're all dressed up. Are you going somewhere? We said, a meeting. And he said, what kind of meeting? We said, well, we're members of the board of directors of a law school. He responded that he went to law school. And we asked him, where are you going? Voila, I'm going to Thomas M. Cooley Law School in Tampa. So I stopped him. I said, what was your story? Because I'm always interested in the story. And there is always a story. He told me that he had married, they had a child who was 5 years old. His father died, and so he brought his mother into the home. 2 years later, he said that he had applied to law school, was accepted at Stetson, but before he had a chance to go to law school at Stetson, his wife filed for divorce, and he found a need to go back to work. He reapplied to Stetson a year later, got reaccepted. But the curriculum was not such on an 8 to 5 day that he could go through and take classes. Then he told me his mother passed away and she died. And so he was fully supporting his son. I looked at him and I congratulated him, and I told him he was going to make a terrific lawyer. I told him that what he is doing, he told me he's taken night classes at Cooley, and he could take these classes and work with his schedule, and Cooley was adaptable, where the traditional law school was not. So there he was, taking care of his kid, waiting on tables at a restaurant, and going to law school. I shook his hand. I said, you are the Cooley story, and you make me proud. And you bring a tear to my eye. And I told him, remember, it's not about just reaching the goal. The journey continues. The journey continues. You will continue to be challenged. And I'm going to be very upfront with you and tell you The bar examination is next. Winning your first trial may be just around the corner. Writing your first brief may be just around the corner. Doing your first argument in the Michigan Court of Appeals may be just around the corner, or being in a position to argue your first case before the Michigan Supreme Court or the United States Supreme Court, both of which I have done, may be just around the corner. They are all encounters along the journey. The joy of being a lawyer is that the journey really never ends. It never ends. It just continues to change along the way. Adaptability is a key to survival. Charles Darwin once said, it's not the strongest of species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. The wonderful beauty of law school is change. You will always be challenged to think. It's not a spectator profession. You will not sit back. You will go forward, and you will make things happen, and you will create. You're going to be always challenged to think and to use the foundational building blocks that you leave law school with to think thoroughly, analytically, and rethink and rethink. As you always heard, I was admitted to the first class of the Cooley Law School in January 1973. It was a night class. Everybody had 8 to 5 jobs during the day. I had the good fortune of getting a job as a law clerk working for the only minority law firm in Lansing, Dunnings and Gibson. And Ben Gibson later became an appointment by Jimmy Carter to the federal bench, and he was the first person of color to be appointed to the federal bench in the Western District of the United States District Court in Grand Rapids. And Stewart was, well, he was kind of a incredible street fighting lawyer, not unlike a Johnny Cochran, that would give everything he had for the client he was representing and never, ever give up. So a year later or so, I had the good fortune of working as a law clerk for the only minority firm, but as you can imagine, I wasn't paid much. A year or so later, I was going to get a good job. I became a security officer in the Michigan Court of Appeals, where I was basically a security guard. And I wore a uniform. And so 8 to 5, I did that, but I never lost sight of the big prize. The big prize I was always focused on, because as I had indicated to you, graduates, that I always wanted to be a lawyer, and it was going to be undeterred. I felt like I had never learned so much, especially after my first semester. Do you remember thinking back to that, saying, how could I learn this much knowledge in such a short period of time? And you were amazed. You were amazed, as was I, until the second semester. Then it became dauntingly interesting on how much we really didn't know. And the knowledge and the desire for knowledge became forefront. After my second semester, I realized that going to law school and being a lawyer was nothing more than a continuum of education and learning. In graduating in 1976, I went into my own practice immediately. People said, gosh, Larry, they say it now, how did you have the guts to do that? Well, I have to be honest, and I have to tell them, nobody was hiring a Cooley grad. Nobody wanted to. It was an untested commodity. Heck, we didn't even have used textbooks. There wasn't a class in front of us. There weren't previous exams. Well, much has changed from that date, from more than 40 years ago. And I can look at this group and I can tell you that the diversity represented in this group is significant. In the first class, there were 4 women. Jackie George used to ride the Greyhound bus to where the Lansing State Journal was, get dropped off, walk across the street, take classes, and at 9:30, get back on the bus and go back to Detroit. She did that for 3 years. Kay Lewis, Mary Kay McIntyre, and Dr. Beverly Hunt. Those were the 4 women in the first class. We had one person of color, Claude Thomas, who was a police officer and had 5 children. My kids asked me, Dad, how did you go to work 40 hours a week and then go to class 5 days a week from 6 to 9? I said it was easy. Number 1, I wasn't married. I didn't have a significant other. Number 2, I didn't have any children. Number 3, I had a menial job that as long as I showed up, did what I was told to do, got off at 5, I didn't have a lot of other responsibilities. But believe me, in what Dean LeDuc referred to, that's the event of 20,000 graduates graduating from this law school over that period of time in the last 40 years, I can tell you that there were many, many, many more people making more significant sacrifices than I ever did. But I know that you have all made sacrifices, and I know that you have all been determined to reach your goal. When I was appointed to the board of directors in 1984, and I have, as Don has indicated, served continuously for the past 32 or 33 years, I was then elected vice chair. I considered it a privilege and a gift to serve. I am, and I have always been a big proponent of access to legal education. To those in the general public that say there are too many lawyers, I ask, query, how can we be better off with a better educated society, especially in the field of law? How can we be worse off by these graduates receiving degrees that many of them will go out and do wonderful things to help our society? Now, I'm 67. I'm in charge of the Bar Association. One of my first speeches after I was inaugurated on Friday morning, and I spoke to several groups, was the Young Lawyers section of the State Bar of Michigan. And they were so appreciative because I shared with them some of the things that I have just shared here with you. But I looked at them and said, this is your bar association. I'm going to look at you graduates and charge you that this is your bar association, and you're now in charge. It's a different bar association. Cooley's admission policy allows the admission to diversity to exist. You're not here because you're a woman. You're not here because you're a person of color. You're not here because you're a member of the LGBT community. But yes, all of those members are represented here. All of those members are represented here. And a Muslim applying to Cooley Law School is the same as any other individual is judged by the academic criteria by which they can go through law school. I've done a lot of things in the 40 years. I got involved in local bar association politics, was Ingham County Bar Association president, was Ingham County Bar Foundation president, was president of the Lansing Catholic Lawyers Guild, was president of the Thomas M. Cooley Inns of Courts, and eventually got into the State Bar Association politics. Dennis Archer got me into that, and Clinton Kennedy, both Dennis, former mayor of Detroit, and Clinton Kennedy, an attorney and now a circuit court judge in Lansing, both individuals of color. They eventually got me into the politics. I felt like I had a duty to let people know that Cooley Law School produced not just good lawyers, but great lawyers. And that a Cooley Law School education was second to none. I determined to be on a mission. And just like Charles Toy, a leader before me, and Charles, would you just stand and be recognized, because he broke the ice on whether or not a Cooley Law School graduate could be an efficient leader of the State Bar of Michigan. He set the footsteps so Tom Rombach could follow. Tom Rombach and Charles set the footsteps so I could follow. I hope that I set the mark so that someone else from Cooley follows, because I think it's important. Nobody was going to talk about Cooley Law School with me being around as not being just as good as any of the other law schools in the state of Michigan. It's unacceptable. But enough about me. This isn't about me. This isn't my day. My day in the light was 3 days ago. It's now time for me to get to work. Today is your day, no one else's. Your day. Congratulations. Today is special, for you have reached a goal in your journey, as Ms. Swims has indicated, of becoming a lawyer. Enjoy it. Bask in the bright lights. Go ahead, give them an applause. Go out for dinner with those people, and if you can't afford it, make them pick up the tab. Because you'll be able to pay them back. You'll be able to pay them back. So go out, enjoy it, have dinner with family and friends, for tomorrow comes only too quickly. Tomorrow comes only too quickly. Tomorrow it's time for you to go to work. No longer resting on your laurels. I can't rest on mine, although my wife's name happens to be Laura. No coincidence. But it's time on the continuum of becoming a lawyer to start studying for the bar exam. I know you don't want to talk about it. I know you don't want to hear it. But I'm Irish and I'm a trial lawyer, and I'm sorry, I'm going to talk about it. And you're going to listen. Why? Because I've been there, I've done that. I was in the first class. People were watching us under a microscope, hoping that we would fail the bar exam. I didn't want to fail. I studied like a crazy man. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Because I wanted to make Cooley Law School's graduates send a word that we are second to none and that we can pass the bar exam. We had the highest bar passage rate for a long time. I want you to exceed that bar passage rate of the Cooley School. And so begin studying for the bar exam immediately. Did I say immediately? I want you to repeat after me. 1, 2, 3. Immediately. That's not good enough. I hear some people that aren't taking the bar exam. They're telling me immediately, but we'll be here all day. I've got the microphone till I hear from you. I want to hear from you immediately. One more time. Immediately? All right. You cannot begin too soon. Someone once said the nicest thing about the future is that it always starts tomorrow. Have you heard that? The nicest thing about your future is it starts tomorrow. Your future is tomorrow. You owe it to yourself and everyone, including me. And you don't know me. But yes, me. I'm throwing me in there because I've been out there and I've done it, and I want you to do it. And I know you can do it because if I passed it on the first shot, you can. I did it, so I know you can. Go do it. Look, my father was one of 13 children growing up in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Being an Irish Catholic in Northern Ireland in the 20s was not easy. They had no iPads, they had no cell phones, knew nothing about blogging, tweeting, Facebook, or YouTube, or instant messaging. He emigrated to Quebec at 14, then to Montreal, then to Windsor, where he met my mother, who was born in Canada, and they both eventually came to the United States. Nothing was easy for he or my mom. They were immigrants to this country, and I'm sure there were all kinds of obstacles for people to immigrate. The political rhetoric that's talked about today about closing down and not allowing immigration weakens what we are. We are a nation of diversity, and it should be well known to all the strength of our country is diversity. Is diversity, no question. If there were walls built back then, nobody wanted the Irish here, particularly the Italians. And the Irish didn't want the Italians once the Irish got in. But when you think about the strength of this country, it is diversity. And when we look at the law school class here, it is diversity. It is diversity. Somebody once said when I took a back seat to an election that I was sorry that it was a female attorney who had just led the state bar. She said, "Larry, I'm sorry my diversity got involved, my gender got in your way." I looked at her and I told her, "It wasn't your gender, Lori, that got in my way. I stepped down because I want my daughter to have a vision that she can be an attorney in a prominent position leading the Bar Association, just like you're going to do next year. I want my daughter to have the same dreams that my son has. I want my family to have dreams that should be open to all." There's a couple of things that my dad said. He used to have these old sayings. You might read about it in the next Bar Journal because they start off with an article, and I think it was actually in Lawyers Weekly. He told me one of the favorites was, "Keep your nose to the grindstone and don't get mixed up with no rubby-dubs." Keep your nose to the grindstone and don't get mixed up with no rubby-dubs. Now, for years, my siblings and I debated the true definition of a rubby-dub, only to ultimately conclude that it meant someone who couldn't comprehend or appreciate what you were doing. In essence, work hard and attain your goal. Don't get sidetracked. You know the direction you're going. Focus on it. Go forward. Do not get sidetracked. Another favorite sayings that he had, and these are probably Gaelic sayings, but he told me, when you go to the circus, son, and it comes to town, don't let the man with the balloons go by. When you go to the circus, when it comes to town, don't let the man with the balloons go by. Because the next time you see him, he ain't going to have no balloons. And what he suggested was, if opportunity presents itself, take advantage of it. Be ready to take advantage of opportunity. And if it's what you want, go out and grab the balloon. Grab the balloon and get it before they're out. Another one of my favorite sayings, he tell me, at this point, You've struggled, you've sacrificed, and you've reached your goal. Take advantage of the preparation and the excitement at being at the circus, because once the balloon goes by, again, you need to act upon it. My dad never graduated from high school, but he was always prepared for the opportunity that presented itself. Nothing, and I mean nothing, not talent, not intelligence, not high LSAT scores, nor money, nor influence will ever take a higher place in your life as a lawyer than preparation. Than preparation. Get used to it. Accept it. Embrace it. Preparation, I over-prepare. I have to work on a Saturday or Sunday. I make sacrifices. You will too. Preparation, yes, preparation. Did I say preparation? Will allow you to pass the bar exam. There is no substitute. There is no easy road. There is no shortcut. Don't cheat yourself. Preparation. It will serve you well, not only for the bar exam, but through life to be better prepared, knowing the facts, in knowing the law, in knowing and understanding people. Someone once defined success as a time when preparation meets opportunity. Preparation meets opportunity. So be prepared. You will garner respect not only from your colleagues, your associates, the judges you appear before, but your family and your children that you will make an example for. 3 other sayings that you can live by. If you believe you can't, you're right. If you believe you can, you will. If you believe you can't, you're right. If you believe you can, you will. Also, remember when you get there, I've got this in my office, when you get there, remember where you came from. Right? Remember where you came from. You're a big shot now. You're going to be a lawyer. Remember where you came from and what you have the opportunity to do for people in our society. Winston Churchill quote is also hanging in my office, and it says, I think it's one of my favorite, never, never, never give up. Never, never, never. Very simple. Give up. Let me say by that none of us, this is a quote by Thurgood Marshall, none of us got where we are solely by pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. We got here because somebody, a parent, a teacher, an Ivy League crony, or a few nuns bent down and helped us pick up our boots. It hangs in UAD Law School auditorium there, the quote by Justice Thurgood Marshall. So remember, giving up is not an option for you. I mentored a graduate from Cooley. She took the bar exam. She failed the bar exam. I liked this particular individual, and I said, looking her straight in the eye, did you really, really, really prepare as hard as you could? She looked back at me, hesitated, and responded, no. I said, you need to take it again. She took it again. She called me. She said, Uncle Larry, I flunked again. I'm not taking it anymore. I said, that's fine. And she says, it's fine? And I said, yeah. She says, I just don't want to take it anymore. I said, that's fine. And she said, really? I said, yeah, it's fine that you talk to me and you say that. But don't talk to anyone else other than your attorney. Don't mention that to anyone else because it's not an option. You're going to take it. You're going to take it a 3rd time. And you're going to take it a 4th time. You're going to take it till you pass. you're going to take it. And I'm saying to you, you've gone too far. You've sacrificed too much. You leave here as a special person with a special degree in our society. Make all of those who have supported you through these years proud. Pass the bar exam. Pass the bar exam. But in addition to making them proud, know yourself, and more importantly, make yourself proud of who you are and what you've accomplished, what you have become, and know that you are a special person, blessed with a special education in a special place. Congratulations and good luck to the future of your profession. I'm very proud of you all getting this far, and I'm proud of every one of you hearing that you've passed the bar exam. So congratulations.